hey, it's Wes, and today we're going to talk about my new favorite light to use. It is the Colbor CL220. You might not know Colbor. They're a little bit newer on the lighting market, on the scene. And I have to say, I was shocked and impressed. I got this light, well, just a little bit after I got the Amaran 200XS, and, you know, a lot of people might expect the Amaran to become the workhorse, but have some surprises. So let's get into it. I've been using this light for a very long time now, commercial work, personal work. This thing has been through the ringer. It's got some scuffs and scratches on it. I tried to be nice to it so we can get into the product photos, but, you know, it's got to be used. Starting with the build quality. As you can see, this is a mostly metal design around the middle, and on the inside there is a metal subframe, but on the front you can see that we have a plastic Bowens mount. It is very thick plastic. Having a metal mount wouldn't necessarily be the be-all end-all, as my Viltrox LA150, the light mons, has a metal mount which has bent a bit because the metal wasn't thick enough. And on the back we have plastic as well. Let's do a peel. I left this peel on for the review. Oh, that's nice. Screen's a little bit squishy. That thing is going to scratch the way I treat my lights, unfortunately. There is a glass cover over top of the COB LED. On the inside, you can see there are a lot of really thick heat pipes moving into this when I took it apart. On the back here, we have some nice feeling soft buttons, and the knobs feel pretty good too. Maybe a little bit plasticky cheapy, very generic power switch, but hey, it works. We have a nice solid XLR connection for power, and on the bottom here, we have aluminum dipped in plastic for the surround. This is very thick. The lockdown for the mount here is incredibly solid. Plastic umbrella holder on the side here. But for me, the highlight of this design somehow is this handle. This handle is beautiful. It is solid. It is detachable. There is a lovely rubber grip on the inside, and I have to say, when I'm going to pick up a light, a lot of the time I will pick up this light just because this handle feels so nice when I go to pick it up. I know that might sound ridiculous, but things are getting so good these days that it's often the little things that get you, and the handle on the Amaran is really cheap plastic, and this feels great in the hand. On the side here, look a little closer at the Bowens release switch. Not great tactility there, and it's really small and slippery and plasticky. That's kind of the low point of the whole design for me. On the side, we have these NATO rail mounts so that you can mount multiple lights together if you want to have a crazy multi-light configuration. And they also show mounting vertically as well as horizontally, but that's going to be some aspirated hot air there. And then coming around the back to the power, we have a very nice DC power cable, as well as a beefy power brick, 48 volt, 5.2 amp. It has a tie so you can hang it from your light stand, and there is a status LED, which is very important to me because you can just glance down and see whether or not the brick itself is plugged in if you're looking to see if you're powered. Overall, we're really only losing points for our front mounting system here, where we have the plastic switch and the plastic Bowens mount. It's a 9 out of 10 for build quality. She's solid. Feature set. Main feature of this light, this is a bicolored light, 2700 to 6500K, and it is very quiet at all times. You're looking at around 40 decibels. Once it's behind a softbox, you're not really going to hear it in most circumstances unless like you're filming an ASMR video or something. We have Bluetooth connectivity. We'll have a look at the app in the next section for usability. And the app is very simple, doesn't have nearly as many features as the Sidious app with the Amaran light, which has its ups and downs, makes it easier and faster to use. We have a built-in Bowens, we have umbrella holder, we've got a handle, we have this pretty universal 48 volt XLR connector. You could use an external battery connection, but you'll have to use the Aperture step-up device where you can put 1 or 2 V-mount batteries on it and it steps up to 48 volts. It's not really a native thing built into this though. It has effects, and you have dedicated effect and rate modification buttons on the back, which is nice. Many lights these days try to go for just one knob or just one button on the back, and that is incredibly annoying. And the power curve is very flat. The power curve is so flat, and the power output levels are so similar between the different white balances that you can't really even tell that we have 3 dotted lines in one place here. And also another feature is being able to connect them together, multiple lights. Now the only thing that we're missing here is the app. Could have more features. That's something the Sidious app has more features in it, and there's no native battery capability. So I gotta give this a 9.5 out of 10. For the most part, you can't expect any more in a light. That's fantastic. Light quality is really good. It is a new current next generation COB LED light. And if we compare here between the 8300 Pro, the Colbor CL220, and the Amaran 200XS, if we check the tint, the Amaran and the Godox are pretty close. So this is a flash, so we have pretty good color quality. So the Amaran is about a tint of 1 toward the green, whereas the Colbor is a tint of 2.2 toward the green, which is a little bit greener. But if we look at the color reproduction, the colors still look fantastic, and once we have the white balanced, it is pretty hard to tell the difference between them, except if you look very closely, the Amaran is just a little bit better in the skin tones, but they're all performing very well here. I would love to be able to test it with a colorimeter, but I don't have $3,000 to drop on that. I would have to get a lot more likes and subscribes for that to happen. So I've got to give the light quality of this a 9 out of 10. It is impressive and fantastic. Usability. And this is where, for me, this light exceeds the Amaran 200XS. We have a screen that has better viewing angles. Let me show you here. Look at that. You can see it from the sides. Now, it's not the brightest screen in the world, so if you have a lot of lights on in the room, got a lot of reflection here, it could be hard to see. And if you're looking from below, the knobs get in the way. But aside from that, it's a much better screen. Another win for usability, this is a very compact light. Look how tiny this thing is. A lot of 200 watt LED lights used to be so much bigger. And for usability, this handle is fantastic. Being able to grab this light with confidence from below and just wrench it around, I love that. The vents themselves, they do not aspirate into the softbox. So there are no vents here, just top to bottom. And so it doesn't heat up the softbox and make things too warm. Alright, let's have a look at this app. Now, it's not always in pairing mode like a lot of lights are, unfortunately. So we have to long press the Set App button to enter pairing mode. There we go. And now we'll add a device. And there it is. Now we should have control of our light. Woo! Have our gel effects, which aren't that many because this is not an RGB light. And our actual effects, bonfire, lightning. Faulty bulb. You clicked too often, please wait. And here we see some different white balance presets. Daylight, tungsten, short arc, xenon. Well, that's very specific. Dysprosium. Isn't that a Superman villain? So yeah, very simple app. You could have multiple devices connected at one time and then adjust the intensity of everything all at once by selecting multiple lights like that. Or turn them all off and on at the same time. So yeah, this is much easier to use than the Sidious app from Aperture and Amaran, but it doesn't have all the same features. And interestingly, there is stuff not in the app that you can control in the light itself. So if we go into the settings of this light, you can see we have fan curves that we can change from smart to quiet. Performance could come in handy if you were, say, stacking multiple of these units on top of each other, and heat management could become an issue. You can change the communications mode, you can change the power output curve, default brightness. Let's say you want it to always turn on at 1%, you can do that. Language, I don't want to change that because I will get lost. So yeah, a lot of settings in here. It would be nice if you can control those settings through the app. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised at the amount of options and control that we have for this. Like, just having the ability to change the power output curve is kind of surprising. Most lights don't give you that, basically just the aperture ones on this end of the market. For me, for usability, I find having power curves from the warm to the cool on a bicolored LED light to be important. And if we look at the power curves here, this one is perfectly straight. This thing says it's rated for 220 watts. We have 238 watts right from warmest to the coolest. It stays rock solid, so if you need to change your white balance, it doesn't change your output, and you're actually getting even more bang for your buck for the power output on this thing. And this has more power than those other lights, which is phenomenal in this tiny little package. The Bowens release switch is a knock on the usability for me. Honestly, it's the only big one. This is not a great switch, very little tactility, very slippery in the hand. Great, so the usability on this is a 9 out of 10. The only loss here is the Bowens switch and the fact that this is a lefty-tighty connection, which I find incredibly annoying. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, why are people doing this? Alright, let's look at some stuff that we have filmed with this light. The great thing about having a lot of power and having control over white balance is you can do fun things like shooting a day for night scene. And well, it's not just fun, sometimes it's something that you have to do. We were shooting in this house in broad daylight, they had lots of windows and skylights, but we could control the light with lots of power by blasting our talent with a very warm light and then shifting our color balance in camera to make it look like we're shooting at night. Here we have a more businessy shoot. We're setting up in a boardroom, don't have a lot of room for lighting. Thankfully the ceiling and walls are white and we could easily light the space. The lights themselves in the ceiling were very mixed, and so we tried to shoot halfway in between the white balances of those lights. And again, a great tool that you can use with these adjustable white balance lights. You can fine tune and find that compromise. This thing has been my workhorse for the better part of a month, and it has performed fantastically. Value. This Colbor CL220 comes in at $300. $320 if you want to get the reflector and a big old fancy case for it. The Amaran, which I talked about a few times, the 200XS, is $350. That's a fair bit more money. And then Godox Lightmons, which used to be like the value leader, the LA200 buy is $350. That is significantly more than this in this price range. And the small rig RC220 buy, that is $370. And the GVM SD200D buy for $400. I'm shocked that this is so much cheaper than the GVM. Anyway, we could go on. There are the higher end lights like the Godox No-LED M200 buy for $780, and the Aperture LS300X 350 watt for $1,000. This is easy peasy. It's obviously a 10 out of 10. This thing is a no-brainer when it comes to value. Just fantastic. And so that gives us a total of 46.5 out of 50, which is 93%, which I believe is the highest score I've ever given to an LED light. This thing isn't perfect, but it is darn near close to that. There is not a lot that they need to improve on this light except for that finicky little switch, but it works, it looks great, price is fantastic. Amazing, good job Colbor, huge splash hitting the higher power output LED market. If you want to pick up one of these, I've got links in the description below, which would help support this channel and feed my fat cats who are sleeping right now. Until next time, let's go take some photos.